At some point in our lives, we all realise that we too are going to die. And that realisation often gives rise to a series of questions. What happens when I die? Is there anything afterwards? Where will I go? Will I be a ghost? They aren't really questions we have answers to. Most dead people don't come back to tell us what it's like on the other side, and it could be argued that the ones who do weren't actually dead. Not really. Medical science regularly explains away the popular tales of tunnels with light at the end, the feeling of total bliss, and even someone's entire life flashing before their eyes. And every religion has its own view of the afterlife, and, depending on your beliefs, you'll either spend eternity on fire with demons poking at you with pitchforks, or you'll grow wings and learn to play the harp. Unless you get reincarnated as the ant you trod on last week. But nobody really knows. Welcome to the Death Zone. The Death Zone is the part of a mountain which is above 8,000 metres. People die at that altitude because of the lack of oxygen and the extreme weather conditions. The slopes of Mount Everest are littered with the bodies of climbers who lost their lives while attempting to conquer the world's highest mountain. And when I say littered, I mean there are around 200 of them. The song Green Boots mentions a rainbow, which is a reference to a particular ravine nicknamed Rainbow Valley. Although that sounds pretty, it's pretty macabre. The name actually comes from all the brightly coloured climbing gear, clothing and tents that surround the many bodies lying at the bottom. And it was a pair of fluorescent green climbing boots that provided the nickname of one of the most famous corpses on Everest and the subject of my song, Green Boots. His body lay sheltered under a small rocky overhang that became known as Green Boots Cave for almost 20 years. It's popularly believed that he's a young Indian policeman called Sewang Paljor, although the body has never been formally identified, and it's also speculated that Green Boots is actually a different member of the same Indian climbing expedition. Retrieving the dead from Everest is extremely hazardous. Bodies rapidly freeze and stick to the rock, which is why they're usually just left exactly where they fell. When I first learned about Green Boots, I remembered that back in the 1970s and 80s, there were a number of extremely wealthy people who'd paid vast sums of money to have their bodies frozen at the point of death, in the hope that the technology to bring them back to life would become available at some point in the future. And this got me wondering, what if Everest's frozen climbers aren't actually dead, but trapped in their own lifeless bodies, thinking and feeling but unable to move? The idea that Everest's frozen climbers might still be alive sounds fanciful, but here's an interesting story. In 2015, the mummified body of a 200-year-old Buddhist monk was discovered in Mongolia, perfectly preserved and seated in the lotus position. Many Buddhist academics, including the Dalai Lama's own personal physician, claim that the monk is not dead, but is actually in a very deep state of meditation. To the south of Everest lies Nepal, home to the Sherpa, many of whom make their living on Everest by helping climbers get to the summit, acting as guides and carrying equipment. For the Sherpa, the prospect of dying on the mountain and being left there is terrifying. They believe in reincarnation and believe that if a body doesn't receive the proper death rituals, its spirit is trapped in limbo, unable to progress to the next life. I began to speculate, what might Green Boots think and feel as he became aware of other climbers approaching? In the song, Green Boots welcomes their company, invites them into shelter, but urges them to keep going. Many climbers have actually sheltered in Green Boots Cave, and at least one exhausted British mountaineer is known to have died from exposure while sheltering beside Green Boots in 2006. Other climbers passed by and could have given help, but they mistook him for Green Boots and simply kept going. Green Boots Cave is right beside one of the main routes to the summit, and he quickly became something of a landmark. But around 2014, Green Boots went missing. No one has ever come forward to say they moved him, but in 2017 a group of climbers thought they saw his body, partly buried under snow and rocks, away from the track and at a different altitude. Musically, there's a lot of different influences in this song, and there were a lot of technical challenges such as recreating the atmosphere of a Buddhist temple or the sound of cracking ice, and those are things I want to talk about in the next video. As a related point of interest, there's a very interesting Tom Scott video about the original use of the microwave, which was to thaw out cryogenically suspended lab rats, and I'll put a link to that in the description down below. Stay safe, see you soon.